Welcome back at Swiss CyberStorm. Welcome to our afternoon program. I'm very happy and pleased to present to you Chris Kubecka, a distinguished chair at the Middle East Institute and a woman of many talents, not the least leading a life that resembles James Bond a lot. The James Bond movie is on, and we have somewhere very similar to that live here on stage. Please welcome with me Chris Kubecka.
Hello, everyone. In this talk, I will be explaining a particular incident, my first nuclear incident of my career. Maybe over lots of drinks, I'll tell you the other ones. But if you don't know me already, I am the Distinguished Chair for the Middle East Institute's cyber program. Some of our recent work has been writing the Abraham Peace Accords, the cyber addendum to that. And also, we're currently drafting up the Gulf Cooperation countries' GDPR policy as well. Now, I come from a very technical background. I love to hack everything that you can think of because it's fun. But I'm an ethical hacker. I do want to stress that. I used to also head the information protection group for Aramco, kind of a big company, and handling a lot of very unique threat profiles and challenges with that company. And I also have a military background in the US Air Force from the Space Command. Now, we all have to deal with supply chain. And the problem is, the bigger the organization, the more trust you have to give to your supply chain. And sometimes that trust is hard to give, but you have to do it to keep in business. And how much do you actually trust your supply chain now? Now, a lot of this is built around contracts. If you have a legal department, for example, and they don't understand some of the cybersecurity risks, when they sign a contract, they won't specify that they have to have a certain level of security, they have to encrypt data at rest and in transit, they have to produce independent penetration tests, different things like that. So if legal doesn't know, then procurement, they're looking for the best deal possible, the cheapest thing. And I think all of us know that the cheapest thing out there probably isn't going to be security or privacy tested. That's where this legal issue comes about. And there aren't many lawyers that really understand this. So if you do have a legal department, I welcome you, and I'm sure they would as well, to talk to them about some of these issues and get some of the cybersecurity risks in the supply chain into contracts. And another thing is, if you're a big organization and something happens to you and you cannot actually produce your goods, sell your widgets, do whatever, you're the one that gets financial penalties if it isn't written in the contract. Now, we use a lot of different things. When I talk about supply chain, this talk is actually about an antivirus vendor. And in this particular case, we think, hey, we got security, we're spending the money, we've got the people, we've got the training, but what if those security vendors, their appliances or their processes aren't actually security tested? This happens more times than you think. Most security companies and major vendors, they themselves don't have a robust responsible disclosure program. Now, if they're not security testing, do you think that they're privacy testing? You're the one, your organization is the one that could get fined for various privacy regulations. They're not the ones who would get the fine. And can you rely on them? Is there any sort of resiliency? And if you can't answer, yeah, then that means that in the end, it could be either your organization or an organization you're connected to that could be you as the conduit and the pivot to them. And so this is basically what happened. And a lot of us, if you're in a bigger org, medium-sized, bigger org, you'll have a central managed antivirus system. This thing runs with admin privileges on every system that can have antivirus installed. Sounds great, right? Easy to use, easy to roll out new files, new protections, new alerts, check computers. Wonderful, except if it's not security tested. And hey, since it runs on admin privileges, hey, why not? Prime target for attackers. Now, in this particular case, There was a particular nation state, and this vendor did not security test their central managed system. And if another party had a central managed system like ours, it could then send what was called a super DAT file to our system with no authentication whatsoever. It did not care, and it would take that super DAT file and go, yay, I accept it. Now, what the attackers did was they go, you know what? Here are the particular tools that we're going to use to get into the organization and to pivot off of them. So we're just going to turn off this thing called potentially unwanted files for our particular tool set. And then for the malware that we're going to use, we're also going to turn the alerts off. And they put that all in a lovely jubbly super DAT file, sent it to ours, and ours accepted it with no question. So our own security tools and mechanism that we thought were keeping our system safe completely allowed this nation state to get in and take over our systems and use our network as a pivot point to attack a joint venture and a company that we were doing business with. Now, initially, after they sent the super DAT file, we didn't know what was going on because everything looked like it was correct. You know, periodically, your antivirus version will update. We had dashboards listing the percentage of computers that had that particular antivirus update, because you try to keep track of things. At the time, I was also heading a security operations center and a network operations center. And, you know, it's fantastic. You think you have this certain level of protection, but then we found out otherwise. And when we contacted the antivirus vendor for support to say, hey, this has happened, we're looking at this attack right now, they said, well, do you have platinum support? And I go, no. Well, if you pay us an extra $50,000 for platinum support, we'll try to fix that problem for you. If I could have strangled somebody over the phone, I would have. So in this particular case, it was North Korea against a South Korean joint venture. And one thing that doesn't usually hit the Western news is when North Korea is pounding its chest, there's also little acts of kidnapping and terrorism that happens in South Korea. The North Koreans are famous for kidnapping people, to the point where there is a famous Japanese director who was kidnapped just to be a director for propaganda films in North Korea. Yay, North Korea! No. They also like to take down the telecom infrastructure. That's one of their primary targets whenever they're doing this kind of stuff. Now, we had employees there. We were very, very concerned about their safety because we did not want them to get kidnapped and ransomed. At the company that I worked for, we had already had these types of situations where a little terrorist group called ISIS, before they got big into beheading people, they used to kidnap a lot of Western workers. We had to deal with that situation before. We're also concerned about what if there was intellectual property, if we had to evacuate and get our people out and leave behind our technology, what do you do? So luckily, the company I worked for had then the largest fleet of private aircraft, and we readied physical evacuation plans to get them out of South Korea as quickly as possible. We also dropped probably the world's largest satellite phone drop to make sure that if the telecom communications were taken out, the satellite phones, our employees or their family members that might be at risk could actually contact us for evacuation. Now, I do want to stress, this happened during the first week I was working at this organization. You know how sometimes you're like, oh, first day or first week, oh, the server's down, you're all sweating, and I'm like, I have a situation where there could be, you know, real loss of life. So I think the saying is a fire by baptism. It was more like, beyond a fire of baptism. I actually had to send out people to South Korea to try to secure things. Now, in the meantime, because of the seriousness of this nature of this type of attack, we weren't sure at the time how far it went. I contacted a military friend from the US who still worked for the military. And his first suggestion was how the US usually leaves an embassy if they have to get out quickly. He's like, get some thermite. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm gonna tell you this. I think it would be kind of suspicious if we sent planes full of thermite into South Korea. What do you think, right? So we came up with this novel plan of using a dead man switch with D-band so that if the heartbeat was missed for a certain amount of time, it would then automatically wipe and then rewrite the wiping process over and over again. We had our aircraft ready to go, all fueled up. We had pilots ready to go. We had permission from the South Korean government ready to go to pull our people out as quickly as possible. I think you can see the last bullet point in the slide, because that's what it turned out to be. My person, by the time they had gotten to South Korea to look at the attack more, I get this phone call at 2 a.m. And you know, if you're doing an incident, you end up carrying a lot of electronics, a lot of things like copying hard drives, you name it, tons of cables. So he arrives in South Korea, he's calling me up and he's like, Chris, did you know about this? And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Are you okay? You sound terrible. He goes, they were suspicious of all the gear I had and they just strip searched me and did a deep cavity search. And I'm like, oh man. So, you know, trying to get in and out with equipment that we all carry, hopefully now it looks a bit less suspicious, but boy, did he have fun. Have you ever heard of the duck walk? That's like a cavity search thing. Yeah, you know what? You can use your imagination. So my person gets there, and we find that it has gone past our network. We were not the point of compromise. Kind of cool for us. But the point where the attackers were targeting was actually this joint venture company. Now, unfortunately, this happens sometimes. It happens less and less. But, well, unsegmented network. It should make you go, oh, that should be like a Halloween costume of some sort, right? Scare the heck out of anybody who deals with systems and networks. And the particular company was connected directly to a nuclear facility. It was a power plant. And that's where things started getting even more freaky, because that particular control system was, again, unsegmented from their business network where they connected all the way down to the control system, because they didn't think that they needed to segment. Who's going to attack us? Why would we be a target? I don't know. We're just a South Korean nuclear facility. Nobody would want to hurt us. So it's one of these tales where even if you're not the target, you can also be used for that lovely conduit, and you never know nowadays with geopolitics involved, with the fact that more and more technology is being used for automation that can cost life or limb. If somehow a misconfiguration or unsegmented network or your security appliances that you paid more than $50,000 a year for will actually be involved in something like this. We did have some good news. I contacted a friend at Tenable, and he was able to actually build a special scanner to find all the computers with the maliciously adjusted antivirus updates so that we could go ahead and push those things out more accurately than our dashboard. And they did not charge us $50,000. That was a good vendor. They didn't charge us anything. So, moral of the story, how about some recommendations? Now, here's one of the problems that I think a lot of technologists have. And this is, if we have some real serious concerns, how do we talk about it? And I want to stress, we have to talk in the language that management and executives actually understand. No packet captures, no mentions of bits and bytes. Look into business lingo. They actually do use the word exploitation to capitalize on business. So that's one good thing, but we have to talk to them. Another thing is looking at your legal department. I was very lucky. My legal department after this was like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, let's take a look at these contracts. Let's take a look at procurement, because it isn't always the cheapest thing when it brings this huge risk into our organization. Procurement was a bit of a harder sell because that's their whole shtick. We need to save money and buy the cheapest thing. But legal kind of trumped procurement. And if you can't do any of this, I do suggest, I don't know if you're aware, but if you take certain types of iodine and you've got a nuclear facility incident, it'll help protect you from certain types of cancer. If you also bring the iodine bottle to the boardroom and explain that with the risks, they tend to listen much better. So I did want to leave some time for questions and also to make sure that the next speaker could set up. If no one really wants to ask questions, I will be around hobbling on my ankle. So I'm more than happy to answer questions. If you would like to know more about my profile or to get in touch with me, on the website, the Middle East Institute is my email address through my press office. And one thing I do want to stress, I think we all know that it is so easy for an attacker to get in because of one keystroke error, one vulnerability, it's able to be exploited. But it's also, if you can speak in business lingo and discuss these matters with your internal departments, you can actually affect change to keep those attackers out. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. I thought it was a lot harder to explain. Do we have questions from the audience?
I see one.
Ah,
Yes.
yeah, there's a question. Elliot, please.
Thank you, and thanks for your presentation. It's always great to get people's experiences out in terms of how this can really dramatically affect us. I just wanted to point out that there's a guy by the name of Anthony Vance. He's at the University of Virginia, who's looking at actually the value of having cybersecurity expertise at the board level. And it may be worth reaching out to him if you find me later, or just email me. I'd be happy to put you two in touch.
Definitely, definitely, because I've just heard word I should be in the Maryland, Virginia area shortly because they're trying to bring me on board to be a lecturer at the U.S. Naval Academy in the spring to try to modernize some of their education when it comes to offensive security. So I'll look you up. I've actually brought business cards. Hopefully this talk woke you up a bit from lunch. But I do love questions, either here or out there. And I don't mind answering them. Somebody wants, I see one, yes! I get so excited over questions.
Hey, Chris, thanks for sharing this experience with us. So I'm actually curious about what authorities have actually learned from these events, right? So I understand that you have a lot of backup plans, contingencies, evacuations, so satellite phone drops. But on the process level, about, let's say, secure networks, technical levels, or even process levels, have we seen any, do you have examples of what significant improvements you could mention off the top of your mind? Thank you.
There have been some significant improvements only by companies, countries, vendors who have actually experienced it. What's the term when something hits the fan? It's very unfortunate that stuff has to hit the fan for them to actually change, but there have been some. For instance, there are many more control system vendors that go to cybersecurity conferences nowadays, and that is a drastic change. There are more companies who are going, well, you know what, we could get cyber insurance, but we actually have to make all of these different changes for them to actually pay out, so we're gonna have to do this anyway, so let's just do it, and we understand that risk. Sometimes when certain news articles come out, they understand it a bit more and they try to make improvements. But on the bad side, depending on the companies, a lot of companies have been hit via the coronavirus with their budgets. So even though we've expanded turning everything on to the internet so that we can work from home. Their budgets have just dried up. So it's going to be a bit of concern. So hopefully you can get them to understand before the stuff hits the fan, or show them this talk.
Right, so I suppose the main takeaway is awareness from the management level, right? And
Yeah.
all the technical details would be taken care of by the corresponding cybersecurity
Yes.
experts.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Absolutely.
It's all about resources and to begin with.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Q. Where's the next question in the room?
I'm doing my question dance. It's
You
not a
did
very good
question
dance.
Yeah, that will suppress every question. We want to see you dance. Good. I have a question. Chris, you seem to be working all over the world. You get called in with these big critical infrastructure calls. How did that start? How does it happen? I mean, I'm a blue team player, and I'm not really an incident handler. But I'm probably more left on the SDLC when they talk to me. How do you get in a position to be called in for these forensic, ongoing shit shows?
Well, I've been brought in with enough of them, and then also I've presented 3 times at the United Nations, given evidence at the EU Commission, and I've been able to get the eyes and ears of people who can actually change things, which I'm pleased about. Never talk technical to them. And then they end up going, hey, we have this issue. It's kind of a big issue. There's safety concerns and whatever, can you come out here? And that's the reason why.
So it's like you testify, they have your phone number, and when there is an issue, hey, we've met this lady, let's call her.
I'm more like Ghostbusters, not James Bond.
Okay, get it. Thank you very much. Unless there's a pressing question in the room, let's wrap this up. Thank you for an amazing talk, and here is some Swiss chocolate.
Yes, Swiss chocolate. I'm so happy. Thank you, everyone. Ah, brilliant.
Great.